Sí.
Okay, we're recording in progress. Okay, so I also have made Liliana the co-chair. So if something goes wrong on my end, I live in a small town in the mountains, and it was affected by a fire literally a year ago. And we were displaced for about almost a month, and we lost over 250 telephone poles. And so it's been a work in progress in my little city, little village of Forest Falls in terms of getting electricity and internet. We're on our way, but sometimes it does go out mysteriously. So Liliana will just take over. She's very capable. She's far more actually better at it than I am. So, so I'm just grateful that she's going to be able to do that. Also, if something starts waning on my end, just she'll take over. So that's kind of the backup plan for me. The other part that I want to talk about in this session is that next year, we're going to have PAMLA in Los Angeles, and it's going to be on geographies of kind of fantastic landscapes and also ordinary landscapes, interior, exterior. And I'm hoping that there will be interested people from our panel who want to continue the gallery, to continue the things we're doing here on PAMLA Arts Matter, how to keep expanding it. And we can talk about how we can expand it. Two areas that I really are keen on expanding is bringing more indigenous voices to the site. We have several indigenous artists already. And so that's one area that I want to make sure that we expand on. Secondly, we're also going to try to more intentionally increase the space or access to the gallery to writers with disabilities. And that's where Megan Day, a fantastic nationally known poet, is going to help us. But if you want to help in that arena too, that'll be fantastic. The gallery could be an incredible place where artists with different disabilities can present their work and represent themselves. So, and we're also been very progressive in how we select work and how we, invite artists to come. And so some of you were invited, some of you applied. And so we'll continue a kind of process of trying to figure out how to keep expanding what we're doing here for this gallery. So I really, as we also talk more about it, we will have some follow-up sessions in the weeks to come. If you're interested, please email me or David. And while I'm speaking of David, most of you have corresponded with David. David has been a fantastic co-partner, has done so much work on the website. He's a fantastic person, hardworking. Right now, he's in, I think it's like 3 a.m. in France. I think they're expecting their first child on January the 16th. He's been fighting a cold, so he's Superman, right? And I don't know how he does everything he does. Some of you got word to him this last week and he posted it, and you can see just how wonderful the site is. It's only going to get better. It's only going to expand, and we're going to keep archiving the work we're doing. And we're thinking of the next gallery space we'll be dealing with landscapes. And so I think I've emailed you the description of next year's topics. So if you want to do something collectively, something individually, something where you're inviting somebody, this is what you need to get a hold of me for, okay? So I'm hoping, and I know, for example, maybe Carly or Scott, environmental issues, the dealing with landscape. Since we're in Southern California, there's several areas we can talk about. Okay, let me talk a little bit about the actual roundtable. Roundtable is a wonderful a metaphor that we can't really use in the digital, right? I just see squares in front of me. But what I like to do is to think of our discussion more like a plática, an informed conversation. So we will first introduce ourselves, and then we will then talk about our work. You can either have Liliana show your video, or you can do something live, and just let us know. And we're hoping to have all that done within the hour, and then leave time for questions. While we're talking about the work. I hope you are also taking questions and writing some comments that we can share so we can get our conversation going. I posed 3 questions for you in case we didn't have questions right off the top of the in our chat box, and I raised, these are the 3 questions in case we have time. But if we don't, we can just, if we have other questions, we can address those. But here are 3 questions we can possibly consider as a group. How has your art shaped the ways you have responded to the pandemic or the social unrest? Is someone willing to talk about the mixture in their artistic work? And what I mean by mixture is that in this panel, in this session, we have people who have combined photography, poetry, singing, dancing, sewing, and drawing. So some of you are doing some really fantastic things. So if anybody would like to talk about that mixture, that would be fantastic. Lastly, is someone willing to talk about the blending of scholarship and creative expression in their work? I think this is really a wonderful topic because so much of art is deeply grounded in theory, in history, and all kinds of wonderful literacies. So this might be an opportunity where you don't have to think about wearing 2 different hats, the artist and the scholar. You can have 3 hats on, 4 hats on. So having said that, those are the 3 questions if you may think about, and I posed those questions to you before we had the session. So if you've given some thought to that, you can, at any point when we get to the discussion, we can start talking about that individually or collectively. Having said that now let's begin the actual plática, and by introducing ourselves, and I will start with myself for our audience and members. My name is Juan Delgado, and I am 61 years old, Latino, Mexicano, and I'm wearing a black shirt. I'm in my little study in my mountain home, and I will now pass it to Liliana to introduce herself.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for being here, Juan. Thank you for the invitation to participate. Well, I am an associate professor at Cal State San Bernardino, and I work with, I do decolonial theory and history, as well as decolonial media. And what else? I'm from Tijuana, San Isidro. I'm from the border. I'm a descendant of Kumeyaay. What else can I say?
Could you describe us, just in case somebody's out there who's visually impaired?
But describe myself?
Yes.
I'm gorgeous, perfect in every way. No.
Absolutely.
No,
absolutely.
Not at all. What can I say? I have long hair, dark long hair. I'm wearing a pink salmon long sleeve shirt, and my background is Huatlicue and parts of codices with the starry sky and in the way in which the Mexica codices would draw stars. Like
fantastic.
That.
Thank you. That's very wonderful. Sandra, could you introduce yourself? Where did you go, Sandra?
Here I am. Hi, everybody. I'm Sandra Marish Doe. I'm 80 years old. I've been teaching at Metro State University of Denver for 55 years. I'm a little light in the head because why would anybody do that? I have white hair. I like to think of it as pandemic hair. Last time I was at a PAMLA meeting, I had red hair, but now I have white pandemic hair. I am dressed in a theater coat that I had made when I was in high school, and it has exotic gold figures on it, knights and people trouncing along the way, and it has a wild fat collar that makes me feel like Queen Elizabeth. It has sizing in it, and I can pump it up, and the back of it is an orange taffeta. So I feel I don't get to go to the theater. I don't get to wear the coat. So here I am being queenly or stately or silly.
Awesome. Thank you, Sandra. I wish you mentioned your glasses too. You have
Oh,
beautiful.
yes, I have Iris Apfel glasses, which Iris Apfel is a 91-year-old fashionista, and she wears great big glasses, and so do I.
Thank you. Tristan, can you introduce yourself and describe yourself?
Oh, hi, I'm Tristan Hacker. I'm 34. I'm here at my house in San Bernardino, and nerdcore hip hop and indie stoner hip hop, where I rap and sing and talk about living in the Inland Empire and about being really into comic books and stuff. I don't know where to stop, but I'll stop there.
Okay, all right. John Pearman, do you mind introducing yourself and describing a little bit yourself? John?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm having issues, just to let you know, but my name is John Perham. I'm 53 years old, and I came from Vietnam. Pandemic hair, like the lady before Sandra. Yeah,
Sandra?
like pandemic hair, brown eyes, nondescript features, and I'm glad to meet everybody.
Okay, thank you, John. Let's see, Angela, do you mind introducing yourself?
Hi all, I'm Angela. I'm happy to be here. I'm a 40-year-old Chinese American woman. I have freckles, which are kind of my pride and joy. I finished MA in English literature last year, and since then I have been dealing with pandemic anxiety, and also I wrote some poems to deal with that a little bit, but I also participated in NaPoWriMo this year, National Novel Poetry Month, in April, because April was National Poetry Month. And I did write 30 and 30, which I was very proud of as well. And that's me. Happy to be here.
Thank you, Angela. And Dee, do you mind introducing and describing yourself?
Hi, everybody. First, Juan, thank you for hosting this, and Martin for all the work that you've done. And it's great to meet all the panelists today and the audience. I am 62. I have brown hair and blue eyes. I'm sick of this pandemic. And right now we're having an atmospheric river of rain. So the beach behind me in my backdrop is Rathtrevor Provincial Park on Vancouver Island. That's at low tide. Right now, it's just water because we're surrounded by this rainstorm we're having right now. What else can I say? I'm wearing a black shirt, and I think I said brown hair. And I teach at the University of Northern British Columbia, which is up in Prince George, but I'm teaching online down here from Vancouver Island.
Okay, all right. Alex is still not here, so sorry, if you mind continuing the last there. Let's see, our last, Alex is not here, correct? I don't see Alex. Sergio, do you mind introducing yourself?
No, not at all. Hello, everyone. I'm Isidro Cepeda. I have a black hat on to cover that pandemic hair that everyone's talking about.
Is it the hair or the haircut? Pandemic haircut.
I don't want to get too personal right now, right? I have to warm up to the occasion first. so I'll leave it as a suspense and something to look forward to. I have clear glasses, I have a blue coat, and that's it. I'll leave it at that for now. Thank you.
Okay, you're going to continue. Now we're talking about our work, so you get to continue where we're going on reverse. And so would you like to read one or two of your poems? And in particular, I was hoping you would read My Father's Dreams live for us. Is that possible?
Yep, I'll do that. Father's Dreams. On the wrinkled skin of these letters, blisters of my father's hands conceal his truth. Perhaps not a universal truth, but one that smells like mountains and wet earth. They remember releasing birds from their cages at the maestro's house and selling tortas at the plaza. They remember tying snakes from their tails near trees where people took naps to laugh for a brief moment. I remember asking him one day, "Dad, did you ever dream as a kid?" "No," he said. There was no time for childish things. Although he did not remember, his story was nestled in the mud. The brown vibrations of his hands and feet connecting with the earth as he picked strawberries were recorded in the stars. It was an ancient relationship renewed with his labor. Fields of wet earth witness an unspoken prayer. Drumbeats of his heart echoed into vision, and I hunted futures. With gratitude, I arrived at the sacred temples with offerings. Con un chocolate abuelita, with an abuelita chocolate. Con mi ojo de venado, with my deer eye. Inside springs carved in stone, I listened to my father's dreams. Even though he could not hear me, I told him everything would be okay. I was a witness to dreams he had not lived. Embers under his blisters composed my physical reality. Atoms of his dreams resonate within the landscapes of my soul as I walk onto the earth he harvested. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We're gonna skip Alex again. Hopefully you'll show up. Dee, do you mind reading one or two of your poems? Avalanche is one of my favorites. We could also show your video, but since we have you live, that would be great if you could do a live piece.
Sure, I'll do Avalanche. This is in the form of a pantoum, and it's a poem I wrote that my partner, who is a composer, Grant Freeman, set to music. So you're just getting the words, but it was inspired by my outrage at what was happening in the States. I'm from the States originally, and my outrage about Donald Trump. So, and a lot of the injustices that I was seeing occurring there, but also in Canada as well. Black Lives Matter and a number of other incidents. So it's called Avalanche. Injustice accumulates like snow avalanches, thundering defiance. It accumulates like snow, tumbling clouds, thundering defiance, definitely loud. Tumbling clouds, suffocating voices, definitely loud, silence choices. Suffocating voices beneath weight of white, silence choices, buried, but not quite. Beneath weight of white, voices will not remain buried, but not quite. Still cry out. Voices will not remain restrained, silent, still cry out, swim through snow to surface. Restrained, silenced in terrain, greatly changed, swim through snow to surface, dark to light. In terrain, greatly changed, those former powers dark to light, exposed. Those former powers, just ice, exposed, injustice.
Thank you, Dee. Thank you for also giving us an introduction and context.
Yeah.
Angela, do you mind just giving us a little background into the poem you're going to read for us and the context and how it might relate to the pandemic or the issues of the top of the session?
Sure. I submitted 2 poems. I'm wondering if I may read a comic one instead. Okay.
It's up to you.
Okay, I think I'll read that one. It was me trying to be clever and alliterative and also dactylic, by which I mean writing in a dactylic meter. Da-dum-dum, da-dum-dum. So, yeah.
Stress,
Okay.
unstress, right?
A 3-foot meter, yeah. Stress and then 2 unstressed syllables. I hope you'll enjoy this. Galumphing alongside a limberer lad, I encountered a cat on my careless trajectory. Feet met feline with unfortunate force. I fell with a puck and I felt so embarrassed, but more was to matter than mortification. Wounds and wailing and woe were waiting. The cat had been crouched or had couched at the top of a flight of some 40 or 50 steep steps. And so downward, while damning the dastardly builder, I fell and I fell and I fell and I fell, and externally tumbling, internally grumbling at cats, accursed whether couching or crouching, at governing gravity grounding my mass, at Newton, who knew that nothing escapes the centripetal triumph of trusty old G, not the stars in the sky nor the stars in the movies. But no Hollywood hero so handsome and tall ever found himself falling till he flopped to a stop. When I landed at last, up I looked and I saw that the limberer lad was laughing and pointing. I gingerly gestured, but just for the form, philosophically setting aside all my suffering. Cats are cute. Gravity is great.
You had me bobbing my head. You had me in the rhythm. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. So John, you're up next. And if you've gone to our website, you see that John has a lot of drawings and has several really interesting, what he calls deconstructed sonnets that you could read multiple ways, reading straight down, reading across. And so there's so many things that are wonderful to check out there, especially the kind of dark humor in some of the drawings. But I was hoping you might share with us, We Are Strangers, one of those last sonnets.
Okay.
And we could call it up on the page, so at least people would see an aspect of the concrete kind of aspect of the poetry where you could see how you can read it multiple ways. Liliana, could you call that poem up, John Perriman's poem, We Are Strangers, which is the last poem, so we can visually see it while he reads it. Is that okay, John?
Yes, yes.
And you might want to give us a little context of what you mean by deconstructed sonnet, and also kind of an idea of how we can all the multiple ways we can approach reading this text.
Okay.
So we'll wait for Liliana to put it for us. Thank you.
Okay.
Oh, there we go. Look.
While she's doing that, I'll just explain that what got printed on the website is really confusing because the formatting was off, but it works anyway because of what I was talking about in terms of deconstruction. So normally you would have two poems to look at, a smaller one on the left that I call a haiku, and then the one on the right that is sometimes in the formal sonnet structure and sometimes broken up. So it can be read as the poem on the left, the poem on the right, and then as the third one all together. Okay. Do you want me to read it?
Yes, please.
Okay, so I'm going to read the little poem that's all that should have been on the left.
Okay.
All right. We are strangers. The risk of bridge collapse will never be zero. Then the poem on the right. Through my employer, an email that provides a phone number to call in order to register for 1 out of 100 possible vaccines. First come, first served. I hesitate a second. Is it even worth trying? I call, no one answers. I call, no one answers. So I listen to the recorded message and leave my name and phone number. I do not get a return call until the next day, giving me a date and time. I'm happy until I realize my mother needs a vaccine as well. How selfish am I?
Thank you very much. I hope people who are joining us get a chance to see all the wonderful work and details in the gallery, in the actual poetry. And hopefully this sampling of what John did will give you an idea of how you can read these texts in multiple ways. Thank you, John. Tristan, let's go to Tristan now. And Tristan, I see you walking around in your phone, but we can play one of the videos in particular. I love all the videos. We also have, of course, you're part of a super cool group called the West Coast Avengers, and you have a CD coming out, but you actually created 2 songs for PAMLA, and I was hoping we could play Goose, we can play that video, or if you want to do something live, we can go with that, So do you want us to play the video or and get a sampling of that?
I could do it live, or we could play the video.
Oh, what do you guys think? Live? Do you guys want to hear something live? Let's do it. I think everybody's bobbing their head live.
Okay. So I guess I'll give a little context. What was it? Goza, GOSE is a sour beer, right? And I do a lot of songs about cannabis and beer and the hedonistic things that me and my ne'er-do-well friends enjoy. And during the how do I put this? Really, there's just a brief mention of the pandemic in this song. I talk about like it's a humorous reference to social distancing, but I like the idea of highlighting this song in this context in this PAMLA subsession, because it's, to me, the fact that it was this small detail is kind of how I thought of it. Like, this kind of thing embeds into our life, you know, like it's not always this big epic thought. And I've definitely had some big epic thoughts about the pandemic and life and the societal unrest that we're existing in as well, in a lot of other ways, as we see other things like politically and socioeconomically. But to me, it was about like, how does it, even when you're being hedonistic, even when you and your nerdy stoner rapper friends are sitting around on the porch, these different things are going to creep in, you know, things about different realities that we're dealing with, such as the pandemic, being quarantined, social distancing. And I even kind of think of the song as like, me and a smaller group of friends would get together and have pool parties and drink and smoke and do art as in our bubble, in our pandemic era bubble. And so it's kind of like trying to put our head in the sand, you know, like we're trying to just enjoy life and do what we normally do, but we're still, and then even like with the immense horror of it all, we're going to try to process that in a humorous way. Okay. A slightly sour ale, a power tale of conquering. Good guys became the CEOs of Monster Inc. So crack a goza. Yeah, it's a salted watermelon. It's us and Walter Party rocking out with all the fellows. We can do it a cappella, but with drums is the preference. I express my penitence, humility, and deference. I am but an emissary of a humble borough. I want to perch up in aviary with a kookaburra, inland empire, California, where we're known to ride. Yeah, hail and lit, and we avoid the horrors, poltergeist. My life is full and nice. Maybe you can have a slice. So come aboard my satellite and satiate your appetite. The blunt we wrap you tight allows me clouds to wrap when high. West Coast Avenger steady floating like some dragonflies. I'm smooth like the motion of the earth spin. We tight like birth twins, fire and earth wind. Where the party at, we like to rock it. La-di-da-di, then go up like a rocket, yo. For all the hotties, just please rock your body. La-di-da-di, it don't bother nobody, no. For all the thoughties when all the leaves are falling. For all the homies, the hobbies is our somebody, yo. La-di-da-di, we keeping it in the pocket. We probably mobbing and nobody can stop it, yo. Because I rap tight, hard like stalactite. MCs is getting baptized, the trap and boom bap guys. Cause I'm blessing them, you're coddling, caressing them. This isn't S&M, but you can still submit to me a history of the international magical men of mystery. I'm Grant Morrison coursing through the veins of Rick James. I'm Stradivarius mixed with Shorty Shit Stain. We make the hits bang every time we spit things. A cornucopia in IE California. We social distance, but we don't have homophobia. I was utopian, now I'm utilitarian. Can't save the world, but might just help the proletariat. You're so hilarious, the weight will help you carry it. Pack a pole, I'll match it in the hatchet, we could bury it. MCs get verklempt at unfruitful attempts. They like an ale uncarbonated, sour room temp. Ahem. Where the party at, we like to rock it. La-di-da-di, then go up like a rocket, yo. For all the hotties, just please rock your body. La-di-da-di, it don't bother nobody, no. For all the thoughties when all the snow is falling. For all the homies, the hobby is our somebody, yo. La-di-da-di, we keeping it in the pocket. We probably mobbing and nobody can stop it, yo. Whoa. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you. Okay, thank you very much. I see that Alex has joined us. And so, Alex, you're up next. Can you briefly introduce yourself, talk about your book that's just coming out, and maybe Liliana could show, I have a request for Alex, just for kicks, you know, the video that you did, that short video called Just for Kicks. And by the way, Tristan has several links on our website that show him his whole group. I think on the About page, you click there and it sends you to a couple of YouTube videos where you get the full effect, which is also just as wonderful. But thank you, Tristan, for giving us that version, which is fantastic. So Alex, do you mind unmuting, introduce yourself, and Liliana, if you could maybe prepare Just for Kicks. I think it's one of the, okay, Alex, tell us a little bit about yourself and describe yourself.
Hey, beautiful people. Can y'all hear me? All right, cool. Thank you. It's an honor to be here, and big shout out to Delgado. If it wasn't for him, this book won't come out. I won't be teaching. I won't be doing a lot of different things. And so he has definitely been pivotal in that sense. And also shout out to Tristan and Cindy, who has been part of my MFA family and maturing me to this process. So I just want to give a big shout out to them. This is my 8th book. I'm not sure if you can see it, but it's called St. Mary's Project, and it's about a location in the Bronx, New York City, of an impoverished community that I grew up in. And it talks about the challenges of immigration, drugs, economic issues, environmental issues, et cetera, and trying to navigate that. And so, yeah, that is the essence of the book. And I use a lot of different disciplines like screenwriting, poetry, pictures, et cetera, to express those elements. So when you get the book, there's a lot of things happening, and it's pretty diverse. So that is, I think, the short intro. I'm a professor of English. I do media. I still work with grassroots organizations in the region. I've been trying to figure out how to bring money to the region to support people of color this last few months. And so, yeah, I'm an advocate, an educator, and a person who loves the arts. So.
All right. And Liliana, could you play just, what is it? Just for Kicks? And maybe enhance the audio, I think, too. Thank you, Liliana.
This is Just for Kicks, take 2. Here we go. If I can pull out some kicks, gray, orange, blue, I can slam dunk down the avenue like Anthony Mason's Knicks. Keep your soles tight, right? Cause you don't want your feet sticking out like tongues, flip-flopping, smacking through the block like chancla, 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 chancla. Nah, son. Dudes be on the block, be calling your foot gear chatty patty, bum feet, foots of horror, walkie-talkies. Nah, be keep your soul shut. Listening to the crowded subways during rush hour. Clack, clack, doop, doop, slack, pit, pat, pat. Catching yellow cabs. Yo, papi, how much? For the Bronx, Jackson Avenue. Busy bus stops, cushion toes, walking past bodega stores, liquor stores, and chicken spots. Chino, dame un wing, large thigh, con arroz y shrimp. But for real, yo, don't forget my duck sauce. You tried to play me last week. Footwear should listen, not speak, and keep the diaries of our streets stitched into their souls.
Thank you. And there's more of that on the website. And also, please check out Tristan CD and his website, so you can see some of his other incredible videos. Now we're moving to Sandra, the fabulous Sandra, the best outfit in my view right now. Super cool. So you're gonna read a poem that is not on the website, correct?
Right.
By the
Well,
way,
I submitted 2 poems, but I only recorded 1. And
by the way, I love the humor that you had recorded. It was fantastic.
thank you. Thank you. I hope everybody gets to see that one. But this one I submitted and I didn't make a video of it. It's called Eating Willie's Pilsels Without Her. And it's an elegy. And during the pandemic, with a lot of alone time, I just kept on writing. And I wrote a lot of sad poems. My cousin died. I wrote poems of grief and loss.
Mm-hmm.
So in this particular poem, Eating Willie's Pilsels Without Her, I wrote an elegy for my friend's grandmother. And I used the names of people who died during the pandemic, which was published in a 3-page biographical list in the Denver Post, as adjectives to describe Willie. She was a fierce and sweet old lady who lived to be 91.
Hmm.
Eating Willie's Pilsels without her. Ordinarily, we'd be at a Friday night Italian feed, supping on homemade noodles and a ball of meat. She'd eat half. At Christmas, she'd bake or get her people to make pizzelles, cookies, the iron hot, the batter fast for imprint. She gave us the long goodbye, rising at 91 years to declare she thought she'd go on to 92. She drew her last 17 December, year of the plague. Oh no, Don't go, Willie. Ordinarily, she'd be saying how she worked 30 years at first, about the wigs she wore, secretary, clerk. She was soul and spirit and spunk, our Van Halen of grandmother gods, our RBG of fierce females. Ordinarily, she'd be getting out her magnifying glass to see the menu at a hash house, our Alex Trebek for Jeopardy, our Colorado Kenny Rogers holding them, never folding them. Oh no, Willie, don't go. Ordinarily, she'd be counting at Book Exchange, her store, excuse me, or she'd be figuring out how to get herself there, where she, her friend, and the dog sat by the heater all day long, working, quitting at age 89. She's our Charlie Daniels. She knows the devil's right here from Georgia. Oh no, Willie, don't go. Ordinarily, she'd say to West High's class of 47 lunch club, there's nothing to do but go on, our Chuck Yeager for breaking barriers. Willie, live long. Each Pazzel's indented, the Anna Sweet. She and me and Johnny Nash, we see clearly now. Goodbye, our Rhonda Fleming, fiery red-headed heart, gone, our bond, gone. Willie, this Pazzel's a sacred wafer gone to the irons, in the center of each a star. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, we're Liliana, our last last person for this section of the discussion for the block. Then we can begin the Plática in a way.
Wait,
So Liliana, can you give us a little context of the work you've done on the website and what would you like to share?
Well, before I do that, I just kind of wanted to say that Alex was going to share something live after the video, but we forgot. So it's okay if you know what I mean.
You want to do it? Go ahead.
Before I go, because we kind of like just went through real quick and forgot.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. No, thank you, Liliana, and again, thank you for inviting me. And I'll just do a quick one. This is for my grandfather who passed away before I graduated. And his dream was to watch me graduate. But anyway, this is my grandfather. My name is Alex. That's the name of the poem out of the book. It's called My Name is Alex. Abuelito throws on his blue baseball cap, eyeballing an off-white hallway that splits between my mother's bedroom and the door to freedom, which he called La Puerta de Libertad. I approached my grandfather puzzled like, Abuelito, where you think you're going? Mira, Carlo, it's Alex, Abuelito. Pero mira, that's what I said. Mira, look. Vamos a escapar. Today we're gonna escape, Carlo. It's Alex, Abuelito. I know, Carlo, that's what I said. Tenemos que escapar from this crazy lady. Oh my God, she keeps feeding me and feeding me and feeding me. We gotta get out of here, Carlo. Abuelito, it's Alex. I know, Carlo. I know you're my only friend in the world. And that's a dedication to my grandfather. Thank you, Liliana.
Thank you, Alex.
Thank you. All right, guys. So yeah, you're ready. So I'm just gonna do a quick intro, and I'm just gonna share that for this particular piece, I wanted to create a mirror, that works kind of like an obsidian mirror. As the Mexica believed that through the obsidian mirror, one could speak to the ancestors. So I wanted to bring in the element of horror and the orchestra-like characteristics of the flow that I feel and see in intergenerational trauma, and also experiences of strength and resistance, particularly in the feminine of color. And it is like when in Gringo folklore, you go before a mirror and you say Bloody Mary 3 times, and here you say ni una más, right? Referring to all the experiences of the feminine, not one more. and of women who experience the varying multidimensional results of coloniality. And I wanted it to be like a chorus of multiple types of materials, senses, superimposed perspectives, spiraling out of the frame picture, the elements of the water, the blood, the maguey, invoking death and birth giving, and the maguey itself, the agave, representing recycling, not only of materials, as is something our indigenous cultures don't only do out of necessity, but because of our connection with Mother Earth and the consciousness of our relationship to everything living and existing within it. So I wanted this feeling of orchestrated chaos, because coloniality and the institutions within it are orchestrated. This is not just random shit we're dealing with. There's a reason, and there has been a set purpose to the causes of pain due to injustice and greed, which I think are the root and core of racism, sexism, homophobia, and all the hierarchical and dichotomizing inventions of impositions of coloniality. And as the maguey gives us clothing, it is also used for insulation and construction. It provides tools necessary to make the clothing as well. And it also provides medicine and relaxation, as with drinks, right? And I also wanted this piece to feel like a cobija, or a blanket, like the ones that your grandma would make, right? A soothing piece, because to me, it's empowering and comforting to know that I'm part of a legacy of powerful women who have stood up to coloniality. And it also gives me hope as I in turn along to pass on this information to future generations in various formats and ways. So that's like the not so quick intro, I guess. So I'm gonna share the video now, okay?
Ni una más. Para todas todo, nada para nosotras. Not one more. For all of us everything, nothing for us. Dr. Machete. Indias, no certificadas, pero al menos soberanas. We see ourselves in our sisters, mirrors, transparentes tras el destello humeante del tiempo, y su violencia, la de ellos, the self-proclaimed center, the first of the children, a los que les dejan ser como son cuando quieren serlo, con sus máscaras de plástico. Our masks are an extension of suppressed parts of ourselves, exigiendo, no a gritos, pero en modos, spiritual, mathematical, comically tragic designs, uncertified, yet acknowledged in the home, the breasts, the wombs, in the transitioned interdimensional and transdimensional faces of the feminine experience of the precious that eats shit and turns it into life, to you. Ellas, hers footprints are your future. Your future is hers, sovereign, unseen, reflecting itself before you in the path from the softness of your short forehead to the sharpness of hers, uncivil and bloody tongues. We tlasolteotl the shit out of you and out of ourselves. We embody truths. Yo sí sé lo que es perder. Mujer, tú serás mi recuerdo. Tradición americano. Mujer. Do you see your reflection, the interdimensional shitfest? ¿Puedes ver tu reflejo en este hermoso mierdero? ¿Por qué? ¿Te da risa? ¿Te da coraje? Are you afraid? Aquí no hay Bloody Mary. Hay Llorona. Hay Cihuacot. Hay Tlazolteotl. Hay Marías. Hay Guadalupes. Hay Marinas. Hay Malintzins. Hay madres y comadres. Otras que eran madres. Otras que nunca lo serán. Hay. Entonces, mujer, envuélvete en el manto de nuestra reflexión común. Wrap yourself in the mantle of our common reflection. Tejida con el terror del amor y el cariño. Knitted with the horrors of love and affection. Con la agonía de la paciencia. With the agony of patience. Y la congoja de la espera. And the grief of the wait. Las grecas son un sentimiento, una reacción espontánea a la caca que nos avientan en épocas variantes. Como cuando cortas una cebolla y te pica los ojos. ¿Cuántas veces no se ha repetido esa misma historia? Épocas variantes, como cuando te cortan la vida injustamente y te pica el alma. ¿Cuántas veces no se ha repetido esa misma historia? ¿Cómo sabes que en lo cotidiano no eres la misma? Ella, la que corta, la que llora y ríe, la que de un sopetón o que poco a poco muere o la hacen morir. Living in the myth of the eyes, ears, and mouth of whiteness, our responses are a gateway to what lies not below, but circumventionally and simultaneously and constantly, como la venganza de la cebolla. Before this mirror, I invoke our spiraled wisdom, interdimensional, transgenerational, no certificado. Ni una más, ni una más, ni una más.
Ya acabó. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. You know, we have a couple minutes before 7 o'clock. So before we kind of open it up to questions, would anybody else like to share from our panel a poem or another part that they didn't share? Because we have some time. So anybody else want to share?
Hi, I'm Kimberly. I believe I thought that this started at 9 o'clock. I just realized it started at 8, and I'm so sorry. And then I saw that the thing on my agenda said that I was supposed to be in the one yesterday, but my email said it was Sunday. So now I'm all confused. But yeah, I just want to do
Hi, Kimberly. Yes, you were scheduled for yesterday's session.
Okay.
But
I had, for whatever reason, I had said in the email that I needed to go on Sunday, but so I didn't. I thought it was Sunday. I am so sorry then.
No, you know what, Kimberly, if it's okay with the panelists, do you mind if Kimberly shares a poem? Is it cool? I think, yes, I think everybody's saying cool. So,
okay. I don't know if I know that my poems are up on the website.
Yes, your poems are up on the website, and there's a video of your work too. And I think you can pick one of the poems you like to do live for us right now. That would be fine.
Yeah, that would be awesome. I'll do my favorite one of the two then. Thank you so much for letting me do this. I feel horrible that I missed it now. And yeah, I'm in Alabama, so time zones and all of these things. But I'll read a Xenobiologist Synthesize the Future, which is a abecedarian poem where all of the lines begin with letters of the alphabet in order, but I started with X instead of with A.
And you might explain what that xenobiologist is.
Sure, I think I explained it in the first stanza, but because it's a poem, I'll explain it. A xenobiologist is somebody who studies alien life forms. So a biologist that studies what's biologically possible anywhere that isn't Earth, but not exclusively alien biology if it's something that could happen on Earth, if that makes sense.
Got it.
Yeah. So I read the word in a book, and like any good writer, I looked it up and was like, oh, wow, that's cool. Xenobiologists synthesize the future. Years ago, what stopped me was bigger than this habitable zone. And these scientists, they study life, but through an approach that focuses not specifically on other planets' life, but what's biologically possible anywhere, but isn't happening here. Cold fear is different than hot fear. Cold fear is dead fear, not a stop sign, but a wall. Warm fear watches her eat lunch when pieces of grapefruit are a little bigger than last time. Future me wears a mask to the bank. Future me goes home like she knows where home is, unafraid. Home is where the baby is, they say, and they're not wrong. I hoist her to my hip. We are home. Her life, its journey just began, and the world couldn't be less kind. The pollen couldn't be thicker. Hyperbole, sure, but not lies. This isn't the world she was conceived in. It never is, but Mama, she'll ask one day, Do you love nature? And I'll say, yes, dear, I love nature, but these organisms you can't see that get under your skin and exhale garbage, prodding bumps to calculate patterns on your arms, these question marks that litter up our yard and fill up room after room with their buzzing, these I don't love. Someday I won't have this feeling of, how can I possibly regret this? I mean, I don't. How could I be so selfish? Will vaporize. In so many parallel universes, we are happy, and the air is clean and healthy to breathe, and the variables, they say, are infinite. So when I close my eyes, I imagine us there, wherein we are so happy and made of light and have pearls or flowers for eyes.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm so glad you were able to make it, and thank you for sharing that. And I know we missed you in the first session, so I'm glad that you made it. So no worries, no worries. It's all
that
good.
Baby, that baby I'm talking about in my poems. I mean, we were hanging out, and then we were asleep, and I would have come to the other one, but
no,
oh.
no worries. You're here, Kimberly. That's what counts. You're here, and you got to share with us. So now we're really we have time to address questions and talk among ourselves. I'm going to ask first if there's any questions from Scott or Angel or Marlene or Stanley. If there's any questions from our audience, or Ellen, that you could pose to anyone, to the whole group, or to a particular writer. So any questions from our audience?
I have a question.
Okay. Go ahead, Angel.
Okay. I really like how this was kind of put together and presented. And I have a question about how working together, or if working together on this panel influenced what you wrote, or was this, and I guess this is a general question for everybody, or was this something that you already had that you wanted to, get put on a platform, or did you influence one another in any way? I guess it's kind of general, open to everybody.
Could one or two people answer that question? Anybody take a shot? Yes, Sandra. You're muted.
I'd say that the pandemic was in the air and it affected all of us in certain different ways. And the call was for the unseen arts for us to send in our possible pandemic poems to see if we could put something together. So we did not interact yet, but that doesn't mean we won't interact in the future.
Yeah. Anybody else, Liliana?
Yeah, so, okay, so the last part of the video is a VR experience that I created before called the Cuyo Shouting Period of 2020. So you can go online and actually, like, on your phone, you can go in the VR world, which is like what's behind me. You could also put your goggles if you have them. But I was already thinking about, like, how could I do something like, have you ever seen those artists that, they create little placas or little stickers and then kind of like put their website or whatever. And I thought, what if I just create like little artwork that has like a scan code or something, and I'll paste like stickers of it on the restrooms and, and everywhere, so that more people could check out the VR, right? But then when I was just like an idea that I was playing with in my head, and then Juan gave me the call and he told me what it was about, and I was like, oh, like we talked, and I was like, oh, ya sé lo que voy a hacer, like I know what I'm gonna do, and it just came to me like that I wanted to create this piece. It's part of a series. So then I'm like, oh, pues I'll create this series where I'm guiding you from one piece. So the 2-dimensional piece that created the VR, and then I'm guiding you through with this other piece that's like mixed media. So yes and no, I guess. Like it is some work that I was doing before, but this kind of like helped me develop other ways of,
Well, I like to answer that question, Angel, and maybe two parts. When David and I put the call out and we started receiving work, it was so interesting, and it was so much of the work was beyond the 8x11 page, that it was multimedia, it had sounds, drawings, and we thought we wanted to put together a website just to show people and share people all the different diversity of things that we were receiving. Instead of just having a panel discussion where people just read their poems, we started getting so much variety of things. We said it'd be a waste not to have people show this work. And another thing that happened that was really interesting, Kimberly, I would say, there was 4 or 5 mothers that that responded, and young mothers that that had just infants, or they had 2 or 3 kids. If you had gone to the first session, several of the mothers talked about, there was 3 women artists who talked about the pandemic, the children, and how this website also, we thought this is a great way to be more equitable to people who can't travel as much or have other issues about travel when they have young children that are not vaccinated. So we thought also during this time that this would be a great way to kind of create access for a number of reasons, and maybe to deal with the kind of isolation that is not just about children and families, but the kind of isolation that Sandra talked about in her very touching elegy poem. So of just people isolated or separate from themselves. So, and it also the website comes out of kind of the spirit that Cindy talked about, that under this hardship, people started creating. It was a way of sharing, a way of giving, an act of love in a way. And so when we got all this, we thought we need to share the love. So the website kind of came out of that. And I think, Angel, that's how we're moving forward. I think hopefully the people on this panel could see ways that we can expand and develop this, and share more of this work. Okay, is there another question in the audience? Yes, Cindy.
Actually, I just wanted to address Liliana. I love your mixed media, combining media. I do some of this. I have a heart for this, and I'm involved at CSUSB, and I just would love to meet you sometime.
Thank you. I would be my pleasure. Thank you.
I think there was one, Alex, you had a question?
Oh, no, I was just gonna say that the boots that never came off was inspired by a class session that John, who's here, was part of, and Delgado, and I ran some of it by, of course, Tristan. So as far as collaboration, there were different ideas and kind of spectrums of how to approach it. And so that's how the boots that never came off was kind of built upon. So anyway, yeah, I just want to put that out there. But now this is, yeah.
Great. Any questions from Stan or Martin or anybody or any panelists before? Stanley, do you have a question for us, or Martin?
Sure, I'll say something, maybe just a reaction, thinking about the boots that never came off, and the bodily dimension of poetry. Like we talk about poetry having feet, for sure. I mean, this is all old hat, and I'm just, but also thinking about, really was inspired by Angela's poem, that was dactylic, and we call it a dactyl because that's the finger, right? And that's how I always remember it. That was the mnemonic device, but that it's got, if you take your finger, it's got 1 long segment and 2 short segments. So it's a stressed and then 2 unstressed, right? So that's a memory of a part of the body. And there was something very bodily about that one, even particularly the moment when she falls, right? And it makes this exclamation. There's another dactylic poem, A.E. Stallings has a triolet. It's based on an apocryphal line from Martin Luther, says, "Why does the devil get all the good tunes?" And it goes from there. Also, I think Angela had a cat in her poem too. So I was thinking T.S. Eliot, the naming of cats is a difficult matter. It isn't just one of your holiday. That's another dactylic thing. But anyone want to reflect on the way the rhythms of your poems remember certain bodily actions, or like, like A.E. Stone talks about composing that when she was strolling and carrying her baby, like, that kind of thing. So.
Yeah, just to respond to Martin, and maybe Tristan and others people, Robert Graves has an essay about rhythms, and he said the Anglo-Saxon 2-beat, pause, 2-beat is the rolling of a ship. 2 movements, pause, 2 movements, pause, right? So that Anglo-Saxon rhythm is deeply grounded in an activity that people did. And then the iambic pentameter is the blacksmith that everybody would hear in the town. Teen dum, teen dum, teen dum. The hammer hitting the anvil, right? So these sounds that, and I had a question, maybe hijacking Martin's question to Tristan on the 4 beats, and when you're doing the oral tradition, rap, are you conscious of the beats? Is it, shall we kick it? Yes, we can. Is it the 4 beats?
Yeah, can you guys hear me? Hello? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. Yeah. I mean, so as you guys may have heard on the video clips or any of my other stuff on my website, I do this all the instrumentals, to stuff produced, original productions by my friends and stuff. And so yeah, even as I perform the one I did right now, that one is a 4/4. It's what we call a boom bap beat, as opposed to a double time trap beat, which is a more modern kind of hip hop stuff in the last 10 years. So that was like a boom bap one, and that's definitely 4/4. And yeah, I even just have the specific beat that I wrote it to in mind. When I do it. So it's just, rhyme is a really helpful mnemonic, and that helps me stay on rhythm, because I probably wouldn't otherwise.
Anybody, any other poet want to talk about, or rhymester want to talk about beat and rhythm? Anybody?
I tend to, so one of the things I was looking at was just people like Langston Hughes and a lot of these other poets, Baraka, Pinero. And what it is I realized that in tradition of Afrobeat, that's this African rhythm, call or response, this repetition that happens in this cultural context that keeps pace and reminder of past and present and future. And so when I write, a lot of that, trying to bring the past, present, and future, trying to link either repetitive words or phonetically play with phonetic sounds that, pop, pop, ta, 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 that create rhythm itself. Because rhythm, from what I learned, it started with word, and started with the beat of the heart. And then in that, you breathe life into these words. And so, yeah, that's how I look at it. I tap into the soul, into that dynamic of African culture and tradition, and salsa, merengue, you name it. So, but anyway, yeah.
And we'll go to another question to Stanley in a minute. But I was going to ask Dee, you write books on poetry and poets, and do you have a section on rhythm and free verse, or what's your take on some of the discussion we're having?
Actually, no, I don't write about about that. I've been writing about echo criticism in literature right now. But no, I'm appreciating the dialogue and the discussion, and I like the explanations and how each artist here is hearing the sounds. And Martin's description of connecting it with the body, I thought was really interesting as well. So no, I'm just enjoying the discussion.
Stanley, thank you, Dee. Stanley, you had a question before Martin rudely interrupted you.
No, Martin's, I'm glad that our comments and questions are separated so they don't get compared with each other. I just wanted to thank you all for your words and your rhythms, and for being here, and enjoyed having the sounds wash over me here at this point in the conference. And I think I'll go out on a limb. Did I hear an allusion in Tristan's piece to Inland Empire? Did I hear that? Yeah.
Absolutely,
So
absolutely.
I'm always Yeah, I'm from Riverside and grew up in Moreno Valley, so I'm always happy when I hear is an allusion to the Inland Empire. It gladdens my heart.
All
I
right.
wonder if it would gladden your heart to know what the hip hop community here calls Moreno Valley.
Yeah,
Are
I'd
you
like
familiar
to.
with- It's Murder Val or the Murder.
Yeah, I think I've heard maybe.
Oh
heard
yeah,
that
okay,
before.
for sure. I thought you might. All right.
I lived there from like 1976 to maybe 1995. So yeah.
Okay, so you at least saw the beginning of that era.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Appreciate it. Appreciate it. Thank you.
We do have a question on chat that we can read? Is that, am I
Yes.
making?
Sí, de Carly.
¿Qué dice?
She has a question for me. She says that she's also heard the Ni Una Más movement referred to as Ni Una Menos. Is there any different thought process behind the choice of names? Well, for me, what I know is que Ni Una Más is the slogan used for Las Muertas de Juárez and in many other feminicide problems in Mexico. And I know that Ni Una Menos originated in Argentina. But usually they say Ni Una Más, Ni Una Menos. So they join those two voices and saying the reason why they say Ni Una Menos is also because no es they're not menos, like we're not lesser important than other people dying. You know, women are also important when we die. So that's why they switched that word, you know, to play with that idea. Mm-hmm.
So let's see, who is not, I haven't heard someone's couple voices. I haven't heard John. Whose other voice I haven't heard in a while? Who's been quiet here? John, do you want to jump in and say something?
Say something. Okay. The pictures that I included, they are a visual representation of what I'm trying to do with the poems. So you'll see pictures showing the Virgin Guadalupe with Diego Rivera, Ophelia, English traditions, the Japanese wave. So I try to marry all those different traditions in my work, framed around a sonnet and a haiku, and the pictures articulate that effort.
Excellent. Who else has not, Liliana, who help me pick someone who is, we haven't heard their voice in a minute here. Whose voice
Well,
have we not?
I would like to personally hear more from Isidro.
Yes, he's been too quiet over there.
Misterioso.
Misterioso. So you also put on the website that you do painting, right? You do some other, and what do you teach at Crafton? What's your area?
I teach composition, and right now I'm also teaching Chicano literature.
Awesome.
So those are the two things that I'm teaching at the moment.
Do you want to address any of the questions that we have posed earlier in the session, or the question of rhythm, or do you have a comment you want to share for us?
There's a comment that I want to make that's also connected to a story. And when Mexico and other parts of no, we'll just stick with Mexico, started to make the shift into religion, into Catholicism. We had a very old sculpture, and I've heard the name already from Liliana, the Coatlicue. And then there was a more humanized representation of that we called the Tonatzin. And then there became an even more humanized symbol that became the Virgen de Guadalupe. And that just shows the abstraction of not only of sound, but of images that are a product of our history as indigenous people of this continent. And sometimes our realities are perceived as these abstractions. And I think in order to communicate some of the things that we experience at a spiritual level, we have to approach them from a very religious, I want to say, viewpoint, right? We have to anthropomorphize all these all the energies, all the symbols, the dreams, the states of being, the epistemology, the ontology, as a way to communicate, perhaps with a broader audience. So I'm very happy that I have the opportunity to share some of my poetry, my artwork, as you see in the back here. It looks abstract, but it is in fact a representation of the elements of the water, the fire, the earth, the wind, and I'll just leave it at that. Who said Tristan? I could go on and on about this, but I'll leave it there.
Okay, thank you. Kimberly or Sandra, do you have any other poems you want to share? You're muted.
I'm sure I could find one if you give me a second.
Okay, Sandra, you're on stage.
Oh, flap. In the video, I have a slightly humorous, hysterical poem about eating my hearing aid in the pandemic.
I love that poem.
Mhm.
I see Craig has joined us too.
Good.
Craig is on the website. Is there a short poem you want to throw in? Did you bring any of your poems?
I can go to the website and let me do that. Let me find. Do I have
That's
PAMLA?
why you're finding that, Kim. Have you found your poem? Okay, go, Kim.
Yeah, it's different than the one on the website, but you know, it's called Roller Coaster. Roller coaster of love, or having to deal with your family, vaccinated and or unvaccinated, willing and able to spend more money than you have. It has nothing to do with willing. You can't explain it to them, but you try. A box of new blank cassette tapes and a stick of paste are all the gifts you want, really, and he finds them both at the yard sale down the street. Now that's love, baby. The baby is always asleep in these poems, building houses in her dreams full of chalk to eat and kale chips and kitty cat babies and other specifics only she can love. It's the pink chalk and the yellow chalk that taste the best. She doesn't know what a sleepover is yet. She doesn't even know what time is, you know? She is a bundle of running joy, and all you want is for her to be safe, for them to be safe, for the poison to be gone, or the cure injected into the clouds. And then it would fall with the rain, and you would only have to say, go outside, just go outside. You could push them outside. You could say, sorry, I'm so sorry. My heart is an unloaded gun in pieces in a bag that he asks you to lock away in the safe. My heart is a machine with an on and off switch that never gets turned off. My heart is a roller coaster. My heart is a gun. My heart is a vaccine. My heart is a machine.
Thank you. Very nice. Very nice. So Craig, did you find a poem?
Sure.
And then I think Angela, you're next because you only read one poem, Angela. So that short poem that you withheld from us, you're going to read.
Do you, Juan, do you prefer the aphorisms one or the sentence one? Which should I read?
It's up to you, Craig.
Okay, I'll read the aphorisms for the reticent, lazy, and ill-informed. These are all sentence-long aphorisms that I created. Aphasia comes in all shapes and barflies. Fireworks are all well and good, but are generally lacking in humility. I'm a perfect potato chip in an imperfect world. A pound of flesh is nothing. I would give 2 pounds if it would mean I'd gain your love. I don't believe in 90% of what I believe. America was my gateway drug. They sold the family farm for a euphemism. Advice for the day: embrace the cliche, then pee on it, then punch it in the face. This one doesn't really make sense unless you see it. Surfing, S-E-R-F-I-N-G, is the new American pastime. I'm getting better at ignoring things. It just takes not practicing. Tight slacks aren't very American. The most American attire is a muumuu, expansive, with room for more and more. High five, self-delusion, you're my best friend. I'm a Jewish tailor at a KKK rally. Not all paper cuts are created equal. Realism is my least favorite ism. I love piers, bridges to fucking nowhere.
Thank you, Craig. Thank you. Angela.
Yes, I have the very short poem to read, and I'm happy to do that, and also some comments if I may make them
Sure.
after I. Okay, I'll read the tanka first.
And could you explain what a tanka is to
Yeah,
maybe?
sure. A tanka is a 5-line Japanese form that starts, the first 3 lines are what we remember as a haiku. And then there are 2 7-syllable lines. A haiku is 575, of course. And the concluding 2 lines are 2 7-syllable lines. And they have to, it's not just 2 more lines added to a haiku in terms of like, oh, I'm gonna write a haiku and then a concluding something. Like they have to be kind of connected if I remember my Japanese forms correctly. Okay, this is just called tanka. Luxuriant leaves purple and grace the plum tree. They wave to the breeze. I love them through my window, but I mourn the short-lived blooms. So that's my tanka. And I was thinking about what Isidro said about spirituality and about what we were saying earlier about physicality. And this also, my comment also relates to your question at the beginning, Juan, about how we connect scholarship with creativity. I am a too intellectual poet because I tend to start with form. And I don't think I managed to really excavate or even access emotion very well. And when I've written mostly sonnets, I've written a couple of villanelles, a couple of sestinas, and for me, I approach them as logic games. And I very much want to branch out into writing what I would actually call poetry, because I find that what I've written so far, I tend more to call verses, because that feels more accurate. And this may be partly too that I over idolize what I might call poetry myself. So there's a little bit of ownership maybe that I have to do here. But yeah, I've really enjoyed listening to everybody's work. So.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that and being so honest about dealing with forms. And John, you're an interesting person in terms of forms and formalism and kind of personalizing forms and kind of almost anti-sonnets. Could you react to maybe Angela? How do you confront some of those issues of form? Because I think it is, the forms we write, the aesthetics we choose is sometimes the most telling and some of the most interesting things about who we are. It's not only the rhythms of our culture. There's symbolism in the numbers we like. Why do we like the number 3? Going back to Martin's knuckles, why are couplets, why is the number 2 symbolic? Why are these numbers ingrained in us in some way? So how do you deal with and talk about form?
All right, whenever I think about writing in form, I always remember what you said when I was your student, that you shouldn't let the form become a form of tyranny. You can't let it control who you are as a writer. That's why I like to deconstruct it. So if you find that you like certain forms, you can make them your own. So that's why I do more than one poem whenever I write a poem. I'll have the haiku over here, I'll have the sonnet over there, and then I'll mess them up. I won't have 3 lines for a sonnet, I'll have less, or I'll have a haiku that's longer and still call it a haiku and be okay with it.
Interesting.
Can I add
Thank
something about
Sure.
kind of what you were just saying about numbers? There's a great book that I read recently by Robert Hass called A Little Book on Form. And his first chapter is just about like 1. So if you I think it's kind of what you were both just saying in answer to the question. The second book is about 2, the second chapter is about 2s, and the third chapter is about 3s. And so it's taking all these things we know about sonnets and villanelles and like really like inspecting them for like what we mean by a couplet, what we mean by like, what does it mean to make something that's 14 lines? So rather than just taking the forms for granted, he breaks it down so you really think about what these numbers can do, what the tyrannical parts that we're putting on the poems, what they might mean, and all the different things that they mean. And it made me feel more like able to expand beyond those forms, I guess. I can imagine that someone who feels like they have to write poetry in form maybe feel liberated by just reading what he has to say about those things. So I'd recommend that book if it's something that, if you know, going beyond these forms is something that you really want to do for sure. And just like, he's got a bunch of other like parts, like the history of the sonnet. I didn't find those as compelling as I did just the first half of it on the numbers, but you know, you buy the whole book, so you don't have to read the whole book necessarily.
Yeah. Since we're getting really technical in the weeds here, maybe I'd like to say two things about this discussion about form. I think sometimes the way we think of form, the practice of writing in form to me is much more interesting than the numerology, than the numbers and the constraints. What I mean by that is the practice of form. So someone who learns haiku or tanka over years of practicing the form and the way you would practice a tea ceremony or a certain kind of ritual in the garden. So to me, it's not so much the number or the constraint, but the practice, the way you practice the form. And that in itself is an interesting transitional. It could liberate you, it could change you. And so it could also, think about it this way. What if you start thinking in the way tankas are constructed? Or haikus, and whether a framing of reality, right? A sifting of reality, a condensing of diction, of ways of thinking of imagery. So to me, it's not so much the constraint, but the way the practice can shape consciousness, can shape your way of being, right? And so to me, that's kind of an interesting thing to think about, how we live with a form, how we practice a form. And so I think that's one of the interesting things that, you know, when you think of, you know, the way you walk and the rhythm you walk in, right? How that shapes how you read the landscape. And so forms can be really part of our body, our consciousness. So to me, form could be a way to intentionally change our consciousness. And so, and not that one form can do, you know, any one form can do that. Do you follow me? It doesn't necessarily, you know, Villanelle or something. The other part I just want to say, I think of form connected to kinds of spirituality in a way that, you know, like what I mean by things like that, you know, what's the spirituality behind the sonnet? You know, not just the, like when you think of recipes, you just think of the ingredients and how you have to mix it, but think about the spirituality of the food you're eating, the culture of your eating. Do you follow me? And so it changes form. It changes the way you think of form when you think about those kinds of things, you know.
Yeah,
Patriarch. Yes.
I was going to ask, do you think that's true even, Juan, when you're forming the form yourself? Like I love your new poem that you're working on, the deconstructed sonnet, but it's not a traditional sonnet, but yet it seems like you were thinking of it as a sonnet or as a kind of a play with a sonnet. And I think that maybe made a difference to the poem, even though it's not I mean, you're forming the form itself.
Yeah. The way I would respond to that, Patriarch has a letter where he's writing, he says, you want to write, so you give the taste of another writer, but you don't give it away. So like someone eats something and say, gosh, they knew Shakespeare, but I can't really figure out how they knew Shakespeare. You follow me? That if you learn how to write sonnets so well and so long, that you give readers the sense that that person has digested sonnets so much that you're giving the taste of that. So you become a very, the formalism can help you to kind of digest the form to make it particular to you, and how it then gets transformed into something new. That's kind of exciting, right? That's and that you still have the resemblance of those other things. Have you ever heard a song and you say, gosh, they definitely have heard the Stones. Oh, definitely have heard X, but you can't pinpoint it. Do you follow me? So it's not a direct copy of it, It's not a stealing of it. So patriarch talks about how subtle you have to be in that process. And I think, to me, when you want to be subtle in their transport, in the shaping of the form. So you want to give people the sense that it is, another way I say, form is the articulation of structure.
Yeah,
right.
and it seems
And
to
so
work.
to me, it's the articulation is really the important part.
Yeah, I just taught we real cool Gwendolyn Brooks, and also William Carlos Williams. So much depends upon, and they do similar. They're forming their own forms, their own free verse forms. It seems like, both in really interesting ways. And once you start paying attention to that, you think, oh, I wonder. I always wonder, did that come in through the writing of it, or did they have the form in mind first? Because I guess that would make a difference whether that would work that way.
Are you talking about Carlos Williams?
Yeah, William Carlos Williams is, the so much depends upon that break with, and like, so much depends upon a red wheelbarrow. So he has that, the second line of each one is 2 syllables, and the first line is always 3 words, right?
Yeah.
And also same thing with Gwendolyn Brooks's, with her poem, We Real Cool. I mean, if you read that poem and if you just hear it, it's not Gwendolyn Brooks reading it. She does something really interesting at the end of the line breaks, where she really slows down, so you really hear that that's on the next line. But if you don't read it, it just sounds like it would be the end. The line break would be where the idea break is. It would be an end stop to line, but it really isn't in jam. They're all in jam lines, and they're really interestingly in jam.
Yeah, I mean,
go ahead. I'm sorry.
I guess what I think Carlos Williams, the way I see his prosody, the way I would argue his aesthetics is that he plays with the tension of the line because of the typewriter, and that he has a visual sense of the line, but he is attunely aware of the intonation, that deep grammar of the way we say something. So he's always playing with the visual and the intonation of how the human voice would say something, complicated with irony, right? And so intonation is how you would read that line about the wheelbarrow. What's the intonation of that poem, right? How you would say that, right? So he is a master of how we read lines, and how we read lines and how we speak lines. And he plays with those tensions, the visual and the intonation, right? Which is deep grammar. It's a deeper grammar. So I think he doesn't get caught up into the structure, the kind of more forms that we think about, like sonnets and villanelles. I think he's really, the unit that he's the master at is the sentence and the line, right? And the woman loves, what is the one about the woman who loves the plums, right? You remember that one?
The refrigerator one, the one that he put.
Oh no, there's one about the plums taste good to her. They taste really good to her. The plums taste. He takes the line break to interrupt the syntactical and intonation of the lines, and so that uses the line break to make you more conscious of how you would read that line. So that's just, he's brilliant in that way. So to me, the sentence he's the master of the sentence. Anyway, I think we're getting too technical and in the weeds.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, acabó el tiempo, Juan. Sorry.
Yeah, I know we're
just
at
so you know,
7:30.
I don't know if you know. Okay, it's 7:34.
It's okay if somebody has to leave, but I have a question, because you guys are such great writers. I've been enjoying so much the website, and but I'm not a great writer. I don't think. I'm just keep struggling to be better. But I wrote a poem. I've written poems and other short stories, and then sometimes I have this experience where a year later or something in the experience makes me kind of regret it. Like I think that is a terrible thing I wrote. It's completely wrong. And I wrote one about Trump. I'm going to share my screen, and then it's very short. I'm going to share my screen, and I wrote a Trump poem before I realized what was happening exactly. So I wrote, the trampoline just sprang and broke. All good fun must someday end. Candy floss haired babes rain down, heel overhead and upside round, bruised, bloodied, speared and spoked, left behind a brooding rusty carapace, a corpse to remind oozing sick pink pus. Stop the share. But now I think, wow, what if I was it was a poem thinking that, yeah, it was gonna be this little temporary blip, and that it would then, we would have some damage going on, but then we'd move on. But now it seems like I can't even, I mean, I'm sharing it with you guys, but I think it's a terrible poem now. Like it's wrong, it's all wrong. I was completely wrong about this moment. So I'm just curious if anybody else has ever written something where you think, maybe we just don't talk about it, or maybe you just move on and you don't worry about it. Like, have you ever published a poem or a piece where you think, I wish I hadn't?
Isn't that kind of like how children work though?
Yeah. Yeah, everything I
At the
do.
end of the day, they're independent and they have their own relationship with, the world. And
The
sometimes,
poem,
yeah, or
poem you
anything,
made, yeah.
anything we produce, any kind of knowledge or art, has its own life. And we might sometimes be like, God, me caes gordo, why did I make you? But, at the end of the day, maybe someone else, it might be its favorite thing that was ever created,
Yeah, I always wondered if like Kurt Vonnegut regretted writing what's that story, Harrison Bergeron. It just doesn't seem in keeping with anything else he wrote. It seems so weirdly libertarian, whereas everything else seems more and more something else. I don't know. Maybe he didn't regret it.
I think writers are so fixated with the text, they get caught too much thinking about what they wrote in the past. Since we're speaking of sonnets are so preoccupied with themselves as a text and how they live on. And so I think I like how performance artists, like they get that out of them and they move on. They get it out of them and they move on, right? And so, and in a way, you might be writing the same poem all your life in different versions of it. So, and you just move on, and the poem you wrote in the back and you go, oh my God, caramba, I didn't want to write that. And then you just move on, right? And I think sometimes we get so kind of, I fixated on, what you wrote 2 years ago, right? And so like I don't know, I just move on.
Yeah.
And I think we, I think we're coming towards the end, and maybe as we close out here, maybe we just end by just having Tristan's video play and listening to that, and we can just, unless there's any last questions, because I don't want to keep you guys too late. Is that okay? We can kind of fade out by listening to Tristan's video on the YouTube, Liliana?
Which one?
The one that is on, if you go to the About, the About section.
There's two videos there.
No, if you go to the About Pamela Arts Matter.
Oh, okay.
You go to About, and then you see Tristan's face there.
Yes.
And then you
Going
click
like
that.
this?
Yeah, you click that, and
Okay.
and then maybe make it into a small box. And
Okay, I see it.
there we
All
go.
right, here we go.
And everybody,
again.
before that happens, that's our final song. If you're interested in helping us up with Pamela and doing more of this, please reach out to us. I will still stay online after Tristan's video. If you have any questions for me or want to talk or want to continue the questions of aesthetics and form and things like that, that'd be cool. But we'll listen to Tristan's video. I will stick around afterwards if there's anybody who wants a question. But if you want to join our efforts to keep pushing Pamela Arts Matter, just get a hold of me, email me or David.
You ready? All right.
Galaxy protectors in the Mexican Mecca. Yeah, we some microphone records. See the rest of the nectar. Stay swift, made flip. Ain't the end of the story. Indigenous existence in accession territories. Whatever the weather, hope the best will get better. Posted up, Alto Cali in the Mexican Mecca. No, you can't keep us down and take the rest of our treasure. One nation underground, nothing less than forever. I went east of the river where the heavens beheld. I hope and pray to the same for them to bless and be well. I went back to the city where I steadily dwell, where the concrete's hot and the melody swell, where hip hop comes to rock just to say it was there. We're not asking for the perfect, no one said it was fair, but there was something about the heights that made me feel so at home. When I was young with my family, man, I felt so alone. I didn't speak Espanol, but I did read comic books. My tios clown my ass is nerdy and quite easily shook. I mistook their playful ribbing for some real disdain. I didn't see their work and love for fans blinded by pain. Sometimes I get ideas, flashes how I could have begun to understand my heritage and where my family came from. When I go east of the river, an instance of such a vista and a vision of a family of people, Aricanquista. Galaxy protectors in the Mexican Mecca. Yeah, we some microphone records, see the rest of the nectar. Stay swift, made flip, ain't the end of the story. Indigenous existence in accession territories. Whatever the weather, hope the best will get better. Posted up, Alto Cali in the Mexican Mecca. No, you can't keep us down or take the rest of our treasure. One nation underground, nothing less than forever. At school, I resented Mexican dudes that showed that machismo. Their cool ass reminded me of my tios, lo mismo. When I went to jail, I was told by the Latinos in here, we stick together, so you will go where we go. Once I got a 9 to 5, finally respected the tribe, cause it was never the Mexicans that had neglected to try. You gave a man a hand up, he was expected to fly, and if he had himself some seeds, he would protect him and die. Mexicans find each other, it's a beautiful thing. The after sweetness of pan dulce, what the crucible bring. So I go east of the river, here familiar last. But now I know to love my tios, cause familia lasts. When I chill with these hip hoppers, man, I nearly collapse. Be laughing, drinking, smoking, yeah, time it really elapsed. If your mind's feeling sublime, it's a subliminal haze. I felt the calling of Aslan in new original ways. Ayy, galaxy protectors in the Mexican Mecca. Yeah, we some microphone records, see the rest of the nectar. Stay swift, make flip, ain't the end of the story. Indigenous existence in accession territories. Whatever the weather, hope the best will get better. Posted up, Alto Cali in the Mexican Mecca. No, you can't keep us down or take the rest of our treasure. One nation underground, nothing less than forever. So my ambition as a scribe is now to bridge all these tribes. I gotta learn that native tongue, my grandma ain't got much time. But when I really think about it, what she probably wants is for her family to be able to live extravagant. And once we have our own largesse, we can now spread the success. Yeah, whatever ism suits you best, just help our moms be less stressed. My professor said, listen, Tristan, at this point it really can't be resisted. Through a reproductive momentum, we've established a Reconquista. Look who populates the land you find yourself living in. What's a piece of paper matter? How we see a citizen. I knew he was right when I looked at myself. Now it's my job to help my family and my personal health. It's my desire to help my people, probably your people too. When you look back on your life, everyone needed you. So I went east of the river like my name was Al Green. Soul cleansed from what I smelled, what I felt, what I seen. Galaxy protectors in the Mexican Mecca. Yeah, we some microphone records, see the rest of the nectar. Stay swift, make flip, ain't the end of the story. Indigenous existence in accession territories. Whatever the weather, hope the best will get better. Posted up, Alto Cali in the Mexican Mecca. No, you can't keep us down or take the rest of our treasure. One nation underground, nothing less than forever. One nation and it's brown, nothing less than forever. One nation loving sound, nothing less than forever. One nation underground, nothing less than forever. Nothing less than forever, nothing less than forever.
Juan just likes the one because it refers to
posted up, out the couch in the Mexican Mecca. No, you can't keep us down and take the rest of our treasure. One nation underground, nothing less than forever.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, everybody. Gracias para todos. Thank you for everybody participating. Thank you for the audience. Thank you, Craig, Stanley, Martin. These are all the big heavy weights for Pamela. Thank you for putting in the long day today and hanging out with us. I wish you all success. Please keep in touch. Alex, get that book out there. It's fantastic. Sandra, I love your outfit, man. I just want to hang out with you more, man. And I'll be in touch with Carly and Scott. And so, gracias para todo.
Thank you, Juan. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you,
Have
everyone.
a great night.
Thanks for letting me tag along.
Thank you, Juan.
Thank you.
To landscape.
Great to see you, Juan.
Okay, we'll
And
keep in touch.
Alex, great to see
All
you
right.
again. And
Thank
everyone
you.
else that is good to see
Much
you
love,
and
y'all.
meet
Good
you.
to see all of you.
Take care.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you,
Hablamos
Kimberly, for
después,
joining
Juan.
us.
Yeah, thanks so much. Sorry if any of you were in my panel I was supposed to be in yesterday. I didn't know that I was supposed to be in until right now.
No worries.
Perfect timing. You did
Good.
beautiful.
It's all
Thank you.
good. It's all good.
Thanks. I'm pretty mad about it, so I appreciate
No,
that.
no,
Maybe not.
no. You don't think twice about it.
It was lovely to hear you. I actually, yeah, in the chat, I responded to a bunch of your guys' work, and but no, it was really awesome to hear you. Whatever session you made it for.
Thanks.
All right, y'all. Thank y'all for hosting. Much love and respect. Be safe.
Okay.
Catch you on the next one.
Thank you, Dee. All right.
Good night, everyone. Thanks again.
Thank you, Juan. That was amazing. I can't wait to watch them both back to back on the YouTube.
Yeah.
That is good. But that plus the PAMLA, people are, by the way, are like thinking, asking me, how do I get involved? So you're going to have like, it's going to be impossible to decide who. I was talking to David about this. I said, maybe we need like one, like split
Hey,
it.
William's there. Hey, William.
Oh, William, Bill.
Bill.
Hey, Bill.
Show up, Bill. Pop in, Bill.
David and I were saying like maybe we do for each year the theme, but then we have like a editing group that can be like, we basically make it our creative writing on the web for PAMLA, so that you could have every year like, here's the ones that are just for the general part of PAMLA Arts Matter, and here's the stuff for the theme. I don't know, just something to think about.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think I'm glad Bill's here. Hopefully he can hear us. Maybe we need to because we've had a lot of people wanting to get involved in different ways. And so, you know, we need to have a discussion. Hey, Bill.
Hey, Juan. Hi, how are you?
Good.
Yeah, I dropped in earlier on the event. It was real interesting, and then I had to take a break. But yeah, I had Hi, hey,
Good to
Craig.
see you, Bill.
Yeah, Craig, you've done a great job with this conference. Amazing, huh? You must be exhausted, man.
I'm a little tired out. I haven't slept, and my students are probably burning me in effigy at some place in Denver. They're burning me. I may come back to see a giant Craig. It's been great. I mean, I think this weirdly enough, the last 2 years has been crazy and stressful and difficult. But on the other hand, I mean, we started this PAMLA events thing. We started PAMLA Arts Matter. And we have Juan, and he's such a great addition to the board. It's going to be so exciting to work with him. And the only I mean, there's weird things too. Like David has been such a partner for us all, and yet, but I think he's going to continue. But I think we're going to have a new assistant director here, and him as the sort of the online director, I think.
Yeah.
But he got a new job. Literally, he starts on Tuesday.
Yeah, teaching.
A teaching job, and he has his baby coming in a week. And he got sick, and his wife is sick. It's been crazy. And he had to live with me for like 3 months this summer, I think, or I forget how long it was, because of the crazy immigration laws. So, but yeah, it's been quite a roller coaster. I think we did well though, Juan. Don't you think? We've done well this last year.
You've done you basically have run 2 conferences.
Yeah, we ran 2.
And the online, and I really do like the online. You know, just an observation. About 6 of the artists of the poets, you know, like Hannah, a fantastic poet, got published in University of Georgia Press. Most of them have children, young children, like Kimberly. And Gretchen, this woman who teaches in San Diego, they would not have participated if it wasn't for the website and what we did with PAMLA Arts. And so just, you know, for people who have access issues for a number of reasons, I think we can tap into how they want to participate, but they would participate in different ways. And so I think that, you know, and access issues to the disabled, you know, with Megan. I think we can do some really interesting things. I think that, you know, Pamela, Arts Matter, one of the social issues, it could be the access to those kind of people, right? Like
right, exactly.
Young professional or particular women who are just, and especially with the whole COVID thing, the idea of traveling and having unvaccinated kids and all that stuff, you know,
Yeah,
it's crazy.
Pamela events too. I think that was we got a good start, but we got to pick it up again, like and maybe do more of them ourselves now that we're getting to get good at this. I went to the Pomona Valley, the PVC. What is it? That's the one that they have at Cal Poly Pomona. They have their own like journal that grad students run. And I went there and I said, maybe we should do a discussion with you guys and some other publishers about publishing and put that on events. Bill, I mean, it would be cool if you would do if you would help us to put an event together that's a virtual event, because you have so many people, you know, and I mean, you really are a resource for the history of poetry. You and Suzanne Lamas and others. For the history, we could put you and Suzanne in charge of an event, I think, or just you.
Hey, Bill, I have a bone to pick with you because I think you pushed my name on Beyond Baroque. They called me, and I'm thinking that you got them to call me
about
doing a workshop for Beyond Baroque.
Yeah, I think I
think I did it. I enjoyed it. I'm
gonna take off, guys. You keep talking. You could stay in all night if you want.
No.
What happened?
Oh, I did it. I did a workshop for them, but it was tailored for. I tailored it for a particular audience during the COVID lockdown. How you doing? How's your wife?
Well, fine. I mean, so did you have a problem though? You said you had a bone to pick with me.
No. I think I said, no, Bill got me I'm just joking, Bill.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think I had told them that you should be doing a workshop there and they should get in touch with you, you know?
Yeah, it was, thank you very much.
Oh, okay. It went okay then.
It was good.
Okay.
I decided to do something for mothers and kids and families.
Right.
And they were super cool.
Oh, good. You know, I guess I tuned in late to this. I did, by the way. I really liked what was Tristan's piece was amazing.
Yeah,
I was really knocked out in Isidro's. And who was that? Who was the woman who did the sort of mural panel that had all the tons?
Yeah, Liliana. Yeah,
that piece. There's an example, I think, of where we're probably work better online.
Yeah, I think so. The digital. And it was. I think it also keeps, you know, the videos that they created. It's all very, very cool. It gets students to take their text beyond the 8x11. Yeah, so it's quite good.
So, my only suggestion would have been, I think this is something that, like what it was on Sunday at 6 o'clock. It should have been. It probably would have been better at another time. That's my only.
Yeah. That Craig bumped us. We were at 3 o'clock and they bumped us, and I think it's because there was a panel discussion that had 3 or 4 scholars from India, and it was like 2 a.m. for them or something. I don't know. So we got bumped, but it's okay.
No, that's a bad bump because it's just by people at this point.
Yeah.
If I hadn't seen your name, I wouldn't have tuned into it. It just that was the main reason. That was really the reason I was pretty tired, and I'm pretty tired now. You know, it's just like I don't have the energy I used to have. You know, so
I hear you.
You know, it's like wow.
Well, we should have a conversation down the road because I'm going to be part of the leadership, and I definitely, one of my agendas is to bring more more of the creative writing scholarship and creative writing to PAMLA, you know?
Yeah.
And it could be any area that we want to, you know, like maybe literary translation, maybe some interesting scholarship. You know, you're a great example of someone who is a scholar and a poet, and just kind of bridging those worlds, because I'm coming across a lot of scholars who are going into poetry who have always been closet poets, you know, or something.
Yeah, that's
and
just one tiny second, just a second. Juan, hold on. Yeah, I wanted to close the door because my voice carries some. My wife's trying to work on something, and you know, there's a project. You know, since I got your ear, there's a project that's occurred to me that needs to be done, and I'll sort of backstory it by, I was looking at my bookshelf at school, and I have a fair number of anthologies of African American poetry. And then I thought to myself, where's an anthology of Mexican American poetry? I mean, where is it? And I just realized, like, holy smoke, I can't. And then I started using expletives, like, I can't believe it. Because how can you have just on the level of, it shows you that in some ways the racism at work. I mean, like, they can't even act in their own business interest. You'd think that somebody there would be like, okay, we want to make some money. What would sell? You know, like a textbook. Well, there seem to be a lot of young people who are in school who have Spanish surnames. I know. Let's put out a book of Chicano poetry. You'd think that the corporate people, like, who only pay attention to making money, it would occur to them, except it doesn't, obviously, because otherwise that book would exist. It's sort of astonishing. I mean, it just shows you what blinders they have on that and I part of me has to assume that somebody must have pitched the idea. I can't believe that, you know, I'm the only one who's noticed this absence. There's surely somebody has pitched this to, like, Norton, or, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think what my sense of it, and it could be limited view, is that when I was starting out, Bilingual Press would put out an anthology only of writers that they had in their, you know, Gary
Exactly.
Keller.
Yes.
Gary Keller would just publish the writers that they had published. And I remember Gary
Yes.
Soto told me he had sued them because, you know, they just try to own the work. And then, you know, University of Arizona, I have one of their books. They only anthologize writers that they have, you know, in their portfolio.
In their portfolio.
Yeah,
But there isn't any. But there's such a huge range of writers.
Yeah, no, yeah, there was a recent anthology that was, but it was very badly done, and it was just a lot of young writers, and one or two poems, and, you know, so what they try to do is, you know, those presses try to do the Chicano anthology for the classes, you know, and which is kind of, they're always stuck with using the same 5 poems from Gary Soto, or, you know.
Yeah,
so,
exactly. I mean,
there's
no real sense of scholarship behind it, or, you know, like, you know, there's no sense of the heterogeneity of the field, you know, and so,
and
I don't know, is there somebody that, it just seems to me that I'd hate to pass on thinking that this is still sort of, you know, like, I mean, not that I hope to be around for a while, but you know what I mean? It's just sort of like, I deeply feel the absence of this, and And I
Yeah,
feel,
yeah, I think there's
I mean, it's selfish. I think of like Cal State Long Beach, after all, is designated as a Hispanic Serving Institute. And,
yeah,
you know, it's like, this is the kind of book that's just the kind of anthology that's needed.
yeah. No, absolutely. I think there's I'm looking at the anthology of let me get it for you right here. It's right here. This, this book, I reviewed it. I don't know. You can't read it,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, I can read it, sure.
Yeah, and it's you know, it's an incredible collection that also has hundreds of digital digital attachments, you know, references, and so Latino art is really getting documented in fantastic ways, and there's nothing comes close in terms of the literary world, right?
Yeah,
Um,
that's you
and
know,
it's kind of like saying, you know, it's kind of like the invisible culture of Mexican cuisine, right? Everybody just takes it for granted and doesn't talk about it, right? And
right.
doesn't see it as gourmet or cuisine, sees it as, you know, like, I don't know,
A
it's just
commodified
invisible.
flavor.
Yeah, it's just like palm trees. It's not exotic anymore. But so I think if there was an angle and if there was a press, there's a lot of talent and there's a lot of wonderful writers. And I think it's just, there's a disservice from those presses that try to monopolize the market. And they just, you know, what they do is just send out their little anthologies and try to,
Yes.
they don't want to, they have a little niche and they don't want to change it. And so I don't know how we would fight that. That's the part that.
So do you mean you think the authors that they have wouldn't be allowed to be in such an anthology?
No, I think we could do that. And you know, like for example, I think, gosh, you know about the LA scene. Imagine if we had all the Fresno writers and all the Coachella. If we did something where like, hey, let's pick all the Southern California, the Inland Empire. Let's pick, you know, the Fresno area, and this pick, you know, if we did, you know, couple areas like that, that would be pretty representative, and that would be really pretty incredible. Because if we just did a state thing, a California thing, it would blow everybody away.
Well, that would, you know that there's actually an idea I had, which would be to do an anthology of poets who have taught in the California State University system. Just the poets who have taught in the system, because you would end up with two poets who have been the nation's poet laureate, Phil Levine and Juan Felipe Herrera.
Right.
Yeah. Think of, you know, like in some ways the CSU system has had more, of course there's more campuses, but still, when you think of the greater resources that UC has, the CSU system has had a veritable all-star team of really fine poets over the past 50 years, and that would be an interesting anthology. But I agree with you about, what if you did like a West Coast Latino anthology?
Oh, but I have a complication to your. What if we did? I remember the editor for Kappa Press. They had I think they called it the day book, where they would publish a book by a famous writer, and then that famous writer would pick a young writer, and they would put it together. Do you remember?
Yeah.
It would be upside down. What if you had the California anthology you're talking about, the CSU, but each writer that was there, like, so I would say you have to pick 5 poets of your students that made it. So it'd be Bill's work, right? And then you pick 5 or 6 poets who have published a book, right? And you would anthologize them, right?
Yeah,
So
that would be interesting.
it would be
Sure.
generational, right?
That
So
would,
it,
oh, I see. Yeah, that actually would be very, I think that would be really, that would be interesting. It really would be.
and it would be the
Um,
symbolism of the CSU, right?
Yes, because that's what the CSU system does. Yeah,
Right. And so, I mean, if I can come up with, you can come up with 10 names right now of former students who have published a good book. Do you follow me?
or at least published work. You know, Scott Noon Creeley was one of my, he was in the panel there, I noticed.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
Scott's one of my former students.
yeah.
Yeah,
So imagine if we did something like that,
yeah,
that with the intentionality of diversity, right? Which is
right.
the CSU. Because I think it would, maybe you'd expand it to, Vietnamese, Filipino, right? And I think, that diversity would be incredible, and also that poetry would be incredible,
Well,
right?
that would make a more interesting book because it would multiply the kinds of poems and the kinds of, like, besides intergenerational, it would make it a lot less white, if I could put it bluntly,
Yeah, yeah,
which would be good.
and also deal
And
with the gender and
yeah,
all those things, right?
yeah,
And we'd be,
that would be really, yeah, that would be,
one of the,
yeah, yeah, that's an interesting variant on it. Oh, I was going to say, what if there was a panel in terms of scholarship? What if there was a series of panels specifically aimed at the notion of a canon? What constitutes the canon of Chicano poetry? Like, it'd be great to have somebody give a paper on Luis Omar Salinas, give actually make him, I don't, and maybe not a whole panel, but, at least have somebody, write a paper about his work. But just, what if Pamela said, we're at UCLA, we're in Los Angeles, and it's time that we start, like, putting some pressure on whoever can have pressure to have such an anthology. I'm wondering if maybe that's just, I don't know anybody at Norton, but it would seem to me that this would be the kind of anthology that one could maybe get Norton interested in.
yeah, I mean, I think, I would
I
have to
don't-
talk to my friend Ray Gonzalez, who has done one or two of these, right?
Yeah, now, see, he would be a great person to, yeah, he probably has contacts. I mean, I don't,
Yeah.
but
I wonder how old Ray is, but he has done some of those. He did a book called Touching the Fire that had about 15 Latino poets, but they were, I mean, I was included, but it was a Cuban, Puerto Rican. It would be like, who's the hotshot Chicano? Who's the hotshot Puerto Rican?
right, right.
And so, but I think I will give it some thought. I mean, I think I just think, like everything else has been so specialized, and I think one of the problems, though, I think there are more writers now that are jumping out of the term Chicano than
Yeah,
affirming the Chicano. So I think that's also a complication now. I think
yes.
Chicano for some people is kind of more like a national, kind of male-oriented national term.
Oh, yeah, but we'd have to frame it, I think, as Latinx at this point.
Yeah.
What can I say? I'm an old white guy who still uses the older terms, the ones that I first came up with, right? But it would probably have to be a Latinx. It'd probably have to be like the Norton Anthology of Latinx Poets.
Yeah.
That would be, but I think such a collection would.
Yeah, like
I don't see how it couldn't succeed and how it wouldn't fill a
Yeah.
real need.
Yeah, I agree with you. There's so many works that have not been archived or written about enough. I think that's one of the problems on the academic side. As you as a scholar know, that I remember talking to Ed, who ran a Chicano, a key Chicano newspaper, and UCLA had put an exhibit of all the work of they had done, and they were the actual writers were suing UCLA because they had archived it but made it so hard to get and was not disseminating it. So there's a question of like archiving, collecting, who's writing about it. I think the main problem we have is that there's not a lot of critics of Chicano literature, right? And so we don't have a literary base of scholars who can pitch this, right? And so, or talk about this, right? And the art world, that's changing radically. There's some outstanding women and men. That's why that book is so important, because it came from the theory and the critics that that made the case for collecting the work and talking about the work.
Right.
And
Yeah,
framing the work.
but there's real money, not just little like chump change. There's real money in the art world.
Oh yeah.
You know, I mean,
Yeah.
there's
I mean, and you know, in Riverside, we're getting the Cheech Moran a Chicano museum. So
I didn't know that. Yeah.
Yeah, no, but Bill, that's the first one in the nation.
Wow.
Right. And so that's the first museum dedicated to Chicano art at that scale.
Right.
There's been galleries that do Chicano art, but there hasn't been a museum devoted to Chicano art ever. And so that's the first one. So it kind of parallels what you're saying. We're way behind.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the kind of thing that
And the thing is,
that's the kind of thing I'm
it's a bad
talking
loop. In the MA programs and the PhD programs, the writers are just doing Sherry Maragua, they're doing Adolfo, you know, they're doing the kind of classic. They're not doing all this other work that's going on because, you know, where is it? How is it archived? Mongo Press, that came out of Fresno, that published Garrett Hongo, published Gary Soto, published Omar. That Mongo Press that was started by Cervantes, that's a gold mine of work that has never been put together. Right. And so, you know, that was like 30 or 40 chapbooks. Gary Soto started the chapbook series of Chicano poetry. It went for, he restarted it in the 80s. And so no one's collected all those and printed all those. That's about 25 years of chapbooks of Chicano poets.
Right.
Gary asked me in the 80s to contribute a book to bring back the series because it had gone out. And so, but he, you know, I've collected, I have about you know, close to 30 of those chapbooks. And so there's an anthology right there. Do you follow me?
Exactly.
So, but it's a big problem in terms of just archiving, collecting, all the kinds of things that, you know, that are important for people then to put something together.
Yeah. There's also the matter of especially since you're dealing with so many different poems and poetics, the proofreading work alone was like enormous. You know, I mean, just the production work is, you know, not just to mention the permissions and all the rest of that. It's almost like making a movie. The image looks really easy. Hey, they just set up a camera, right? And a few lights? No.
Yeah.
It was a lot harder to make that scene than you think.
Hey, listen, I have to go. I have to go eat dinner.
Yeah, you must be starved. Go. I'm sorry, but
No, but I feel you. You know, the University of Houston art program has partnered with 15 different institutions in Latin America, and they have started to archive all the different artists in the last 40 years, magazines, and so they're doing this incredible task in the some of it overlaps in literary, like concrete poetry and things like that.
Right.
They kind of are kind of connected to the arts, and but they have millions of dollars connected to what they're doing, and plus artwork is the money's in so much in the art world, right?
Yeah.
And curating. So, but that to me has always been, and some of the things that they're exposing for the first time, manifestos from Brazil, Para's anti-poetry, manuscripts for the first time are all digitized. University of Chile is, letting you see it online. And so it's kind of like, for me, it's like the Dead Sea Scrolls that the Huntington has now made access to everybody. And so something like that has to happen in Chicano sites, in places that have archive. So like Gary Soto's collection has to be put together, so-and-so's collection, all those different institutions, Bilingual Press, Arizona, all the other places that have done things in this area have to come together and be willing to share. And I just don't see that.
Well, how about to be continued? I think we've sort of surveyed the situation, and at least I want you to know you have an ally out here who will write whatever letters might need to be written, that from that if there's anything I can do to help,
Sure.
that I'm actively interested, so.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I would suggest is that sometimes I think we have to go out of our circle, and the way jazz is much more appreciated in France when it first was a culture. Some musical groups like Los Lobos were first more popular in Italy than before they were popular here. And I'm wondering if going somewhere, press outside the US, and they would recognize the value of this far more than someone who takes the culture for granted. Because Bill, we already have 3 Asian poets we already have our 10 Latino poets. We already have our 2 lesbians. We already have, why do we want much more complication and muddying the water with all these diverse voices and these larger categories? Well, that doesn't make it easier for me to point to it and sell it. And I already have my stable of writers. Like, that's how I feel they think.
Okay.
It's like it's like those bookstores that only have
continued.
so much
Go
space.
eat.
Yeah.
Go eat what?
Okay.